You're listening to the Home Staging Show podcast. I'm your host, Cindy Lin. This is a show where we talk about all things real estate, home staging, and selling your home to live and to sell. Welcome back to Season 6. This is Episode 1. Our show is brought to you by our in-house product, EcoJo, the eco-friendly St. Joseph statue home styling kit. In real estate, there's a tradition to bury St. Joseph statues for good luck. But because the existing products on the market were made with plastic, we made an eco-friendly version named EcoJo. He's all natural, won't harm the earth. We're currently having a 50% off sale on our website. For more information, you can visit www.ecojokits.com. That's spelled ECOJOEKITS.com. This podcast is also brought to you by our Cash in the Cushions business courses for home stagers. If you're thinking about getting into the home staging business and not sure where to start, our Level 1 Launcher program is designed for those of you who are thinking about venturing into the home staging industry. This 90-page workbook clarifies frequently asked questions about starting a home staging business. It's also going to help you navigate the waters of the marketplace so you can avoid the common slip-ups. No one should start a home staging business without knowing the basics, but many do, unfortunately. And this summer, we're going to also launch our Level 2 course, the 6-Figure Floor Plan, a complete course to build a profitable home staging business. I developed this course because I was tired of seeing new home stagers left high and dry by these other expensive courses on the market. Not to mention, many of these courses are built by people who had never had a home staging business before. And time and again, I see home stagers asking the same basic questions that should have been covered by these expensive courses. So in this jam-packed online course, we're going to go over systems, contracts, pricing, proposals, inventory, marketing, technology, and everything else you're going to need to start getting clients. I'm going to show you the behind the scenes of how I have built my home staging business from the ground up, including my worksheets, systems, scripts, workflow that I've developed to build a book-solid home staging business. We're going to launch this course mid-July this year. You're going to find out more information by going to our website at stagemore.com/courses. Hi guys, welcome back to Season 6, Episode 1. I know it's taken me a really good minute for the show to come back this season, so I'm really excited that we're back. And I want to thank you for your patience and your support through all this time. So a couple of big updates since our last season. We just relaunched our website. It's completely new on a new platform. It looks so much more cleaner and modern, and it's completely redesigned. It's much more streamlined, and I think it's easier to navigate, and we have officially closed our staging operation down. So we're in the process of selling everything in our warehouse. If you're in the Bay Area and would like to come to our South San Francisco studio to buy some furniture or home goods, please feel free to let me know. You can leave a comment in our show notes. And as you know, we have our Cash in the Cushions business courses for home stagers as well. And as you may have heard in the intro, we have our Level 1 course, the Launcher, designed for those of you who may be thinking about a new career as a home stager. And we're also launching the Level 2 course, the 6-Figure Floor Plan this summer. So if you're interested, just go to stagemore.com/courses and click the button that says Home Stagers. So on today's show, I'm interviewing Nina Dorian, who is a home stager and professional organizer living in Toronto, Canada. She's a professionally trained marketer and spent most of her career in the corporate world. 2 years ago, she decided to start her own company as it was her time and pour her energy and passion into something that she truly loved. And while she soul searched, it was apparent that she loved all things home, especially when it comes to decorating and entertaining. She has always been particularly tidy and organized, so I Stage and Organize was born, and she never looked back since. Since then, she had helped numerous families to successfully sell their homes above market expectations and much more quickly than the average industry standard. She has also worked with homeowners to declutter their homes and put together organizational system to keep them organized. So without further ado, let's start the show. So hi Nina, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I went on your website, I really love your work. Can you tell us a little bit about your business and yourself, and how did you get into real estate?
Okay, hi Cindy. Thank you for having me here. I'm really excited to share, to chat with you basically. Well, my background is actually not in real estate. My background is in marketing. I have a number of years in corporate marketing, corporate communications, digital marketing, and things like that. And then more recently, about 2 years ago, I decided to go into to business on my own because I'm at a different stage in my life. You know, my husband can support us on his own salary. And I've decided that now it's my time to really pursue what it is that I love to do and that I'm passionate about. And my husband was fully supportive of it. So I'm very lucky from that perspective. And the reason why I decided to go into the home staging and home organizing industry is because I've always loved all things that are home. I've always been a very tidy and neat person, and one of the things that I've always loved to do was to decorate in my own home. And so when I really try to consider what it is that I'm going to love doing and wake up every morning loving doing it, home staging and home organizing was the answer that I came up with.
That's amazing. That's a really great story. And so how did you get into professional organizing? Did you start staging first and then got into it, or vice versa?
No, I kind of got into both of them all at the same time, because when I looked at the home staging industry, I really considered what were all the services that would be required by the homeowners to help prep their home to sell. And before we can even stage the home, getting their home decluttered and organized was the first step. And because I have that innate talent anyway, I thought that would make my company a full service company offering homeowners help right from the beginning all the way through to staging to sell.
I think that's fantastic because especially if you do occupy staging, which I know you do, it's such a strong service that goes hand in hand with what you do for occupieds.
Absolutely.
And so what is the real estate market like for your area?
Well, I'm in the Toronto area. I'm actually just north of Toronto, but still considered the greater Toronto area, or what we call the GTA. And our market here is like super hot.
Mm.
Yes, and it is. It's just like on fire. Homes don't stay on the market very long, and pricing has just gone off the roof. And off the chart. I don't know if you know much about the Toronto area. Do you?
I know a tiny bit because we interview real estate. Well, we interview Michelle, who's a stager in Toronto, and then we interview Lisa, who used to be on HGTV Canada. She is a real estate agent in Toronto. Right. So I've heard some of it, and from my understanding, there's a lot of immigrants coming in, foreign money to buy as well.
Exactly. And so because of that, and there's just a lot more people moving from other provinces into the Toronto, Ontario province as well. And because of low inventory, that's really pushed pricing up. So in 2016, the housing market actually increased, the average home increased by about 17%. Wow. And there was not enough inventory on the market. So when more specifically, detached homes. So whenever a detached home went on the market, it just flew off the shelf, essentially. It didn't stay on the market very long.
That is huge. That's
Yes,
crazy.
it
That's a
did.
really crazy market.
2016 was definitely an unprecedented year for us.
And why do you think that is? I'm just curious.
Well, we have foreign investors. So prior to that, a lot of investors came in to Vancouver.
Hmm.
So the Vancouver market was really, really hot. And now we're seeing the same thing with the Toronto area, not just detached homes, but new developments as well. There were some curbs in the Toronto market where they limited the number of developers and builders. And so there was just enough inventory for the population, including foreign investors as well. And so that has really impacted the low inventory for the population and the pricing.
That's interesting. And so, can you tell us a little bit about how you work? So, like when you have a home seller coming to you, like they need help with staging, like what are some of the things that you do to help them to navigate this whole process?
Well, one of the things that we do as stagers is we offer a consultation. So in my consultation, I provide homeowners with advice for everything from decluttering, getting organized, to updating and fixes where I see would benefit the sale of the home,
Mm-hmm.
including things like just changing out hardware or countertops or painting and light fixtures and things like that. And then from there on, I try to determine if they could benefit my full staging service,
Mm-hmm.
which I offer. And then I come in and where possible, I will try to use what they currently have in terms of furnishing, if I
Mm-hmm.
see that it would be suitable. If not, then I bring in furniture from a rental company that we have here in the GTA, and then I stage their home to sell. So it benefits essentially when it comes to home staging. It benefits first, most of all, the homeowner because they're able to sell their home not just quickly. We don't focus on quickly in the GTA market anymore. It's more about getting top dollar. And for the agents, they benefit because they have a beautiful home to showcase, and everybody wins essentially.
That's really cool. And so, why is it so important to organize and edit your house before you put your home on the market?
Well, we I I find that um, individually we all live in our home the way that we like to live in our home. We put furniture and we put sometimes far too much furniture because it suits our lifestyle and the way we entertain. But in doing so, it doesn't really showcase the space to the best of its potential. And so it's important to go in and edit the home and remove and depersonalize really the home so that other buyers can come in and visualize themselves and their belongings in the space. So it's very important that editing is one of the very first things that they do in their home preparation.
I think that's very well said. And I have to say, one of my biggest pet peeves is that when consumers search on Google, for example, a lot of blogs and articles online, they just really focus on decluttering. But staging a house for sale is so much more than that. Can you talk about
Absolutely.
what are some other important principles when it comes to organizing your home for sale?
Well, it's, when it comes to organizing your home, it needs to look organized in every space, not just in areas that are visible, initially visible to potential buyers. So when I tell my clients to declutter and organize, it means organizing their closets, their cupboards, their storage area, because when you pile things in there, in any of those spaces, then it looks cluttered. And what potential buyers see is that there's not enough storage space. But you want potential buyers to come in and see is that, oh, there's lots of storage space in this home, because storage is always going to be a big problem for everyone, because we, as North Americans, we tend to collect a lot of stuff.
Right.
And so people always look at a home when they're buying, no matter how big or small. One of the things that they're always looking for is more storage space. So you want to make sure that it gives off that impression with a neatly organized covered space, closet space, essentially everywhere in your home, because you don't want any corner of your house to look cluttered.
I agree. I feel like North American lifestyle, it's very clutter bug. Like, we just really love to buy stuff.
Yes, we do. Well, it's so easy, right?
It is so easy, I have to say. I have never... It's funny because I traveled a lot last year, and I was living out of a suitcase and a half for basically 11 months. And so naturally I just could not buy stuff because I literally have no space in my belongings. But when I moved back home, I was just like, I kind of want to buy stuff now. You know, like, it's funny, once you got the space, you're just like, I want to buy some stuff to fill up my space.
That's right. You want to fill it.
Yeah, you do. It's really strange. And so when you first walk into a homeowner's home to help them organize their home for sale, what are some of the things that you're looking for?
Well, one of the things that I try to determine, first and foremost, is, what's the size of their family? How many people live here? How much do they actually need to live comfortably versus how much are they just collecting and never use? And that's very important of a process to go through with homeowners, particularly when I'm trying to help them declutter and reorganize, because again, it goes back to people collecting way too many things, and so often people don't use what they have on a regular basis, and if you're not using it on a regular basis, then you really don't need it, and so that's sort of one of the things that I work through with my clients. Some of them have a much more difficulty of letting things go than others, but that's a process that we talk through. Now, I find that having a third party in there to help, like myself, is key to having this project go successfully. When our homeowners try to have their friends and family help them, it's never as successful because they're all emotionally attached to those things. And having unbiased opinion or guidance in there really, really helps them to get through that process more successfully.
Yeah, I still think it's so hard to be objective when it's your own stuff. Like, if I were to sell our family home, I mean, I would probably hire someone else to come in to stage it, even though I've been doing staging for 10, 12 years. But there's some things you don't care about anymore. And I know sellers would care, I mean, buyers would care about. But for us who lived there for a long time, you're just kind of like, yeah, I think that looks fine. It's fine.
Yes.
Kind of thing.
No, but you know what? I agree with you. As stagers ourselves, when we sell our home, we should absolutely get a third party, another stager's objective opinion, because you're right. We too can have the difficulty being objective about our own home and our own stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's why if I were to sell my parents' house, I would have to bring someone in, because I spent a good amount of my formative years there. It's hard. Like, it's hard not to be emotionally attached to things, and it's hard to see things objectively, especially you've been there for so long.
Absolutely.
So how do you figure out, how do you help the home sellers to figure out what to keep and what to take out?
Well, when it comes to selling the home, I usually try, wherever possible, to keep those that will assist in the staging of the home and highlight the best features of the home, and ask them to remove items that is going to hinder that process. So what I try to tell them to do is, if they are planning on keeping everything for their next home, then to place things in storage, and for a short temporary period, and then it can go to their own home. So when I tell homeowners that they need to remove furnishings and large knickknacks and objects, some of them get really overwhelmed, and
Yeah.
they start to panic a little bit about losing their stuff. So I try to remind them that it's only temporary, that they're removing it temporarily, and it's going to storage, and they are going to get it back when they move to their new home. And the packing process is going to have to happen anyway, right?
Yeah.
They're just doing it a little bit sooner.
I think it is hard because it's all of a sudden a lot of changes and a lot of things that the sellers have to handle. So it is natural they do feel overwhelmed and maybe emotional too.
Yes,
And
yes,
yeah.
particularly for families who have raised their family and children in that home. It is a huge emotional attachment.
Yeah. And so how much time should homeowners budget for if they need to organize, pack, and declutter their entire home for sale?
You know, you just brought up a very good point. The selling of a home, a family home particularly, is a very stressful and overwhelming thing to have to go
Hmm.
through. And so I always tell my clients if they are considering putting their home on the market, then they should start cracking on the decluttering and reorganizing and updating process as soon as possible. Because anytime that they delay and they keep putting it off, it's going to mean that they're going to have to rush through everything, and it's going to be so overwhelming and so stressful. So at minimum, I try to tell my clients that they should start the process, if possible, at least 4 weeks ahead of time.
Yeah, I think that's a good time frame because that gives them enough time in case life
Yes.
interfere, that kind of thing as well.
Exactly. Week one to start decluttering and packing some things up, another week to look at the minor updates and fixes, and then you've got to clean from top to bottom. And then if you're using a stager or just staging yourself, then you need to have time to do that too before the photographer comes in and the listing goes up, right?
Yeah, I think photography is such a key. And I think they say like what is it, like a camera adds 10 pounds. I feel like it's the same with clutter as well. And I think most
Oh,
homeowners
God.
don't realize how their house is photographed until they see it after.
Yes,
So one of the
yes.
things when I work with clients, when they have to do it themselves, it's I ask them to take photos of their progress. So this way they can kind of observe what it's going to look like for listing photos.
Right. Yes.
And we didn't really
Yes.
touch on this, but can you define what decluttering is?
Well, decluttering is really about getting rid of things, removing things that you don't use or have no use in your life at the moment, because clutter are all of the things that we've collected over the years, don't use anymore, and keep piling them up in one corner or another, and things pile up. And so the decluttering process is essentially going through that, decide what it is that you need to live your life comfortably, things that are nice to have, but you're not using very often, things that you can get rid of, donate or give to families and friends.
That's a really good definition. I love that. And then what are some of the easily forgotten areas or trickier areas when it comes to staging their house for sale?
Um, closet, closets and cupboard space, kitchen cupboard space. Again, when homeowners and some of my clients have done this exact thing, in that when I've asked them to declutter, they've just taken things from within eyesight and shoved them into closets and storage spaces like the furnace room, and into kitchen cabinets haphazardly. And as I mentioned earlier, when potential buyers come in to view your home, they will be opening up all of those spaces because they want to see, again, the storage spaces that's going to be available to them and their stuff. And so if you have those places cluttered, just because there's a door and you're able to close it, it doesn't mean that it's hidden away from potential buyers' views. They will be looking at it and they will be assessing those spaces. And if they see that it's cluttered and it gives off the impression that there's not enough storage space for them, then they're going to bypass your house and go to another home.
Yeah, I think that's really important to talk about. So when they're living in the house, for example, how much do you actually tell the homeowners to clear out of their closet and cupboards?
I try to tell them to keep seasonality in mind. So right now we're in the winter season.
Mm-hmm.
And so I tell my clients to keep enough clothes to wear for a maximum of 7 days. If you don't think that you're going to wear something that you're not going to need something for 7 days, then move them out, because 7 days worth of clothing is plenty, because you can obviously wash them and rotate them.
Mm-hmm.
The rest, if you're not going to need your evening gown or your cocktail dress, you're not going to need that for several months. Pack them away, put them away. You don't need them right now. Your summer and your spring clothes, you certainly don't need those right now. So pack those away in boxes and get them ready for you to move into your new home. But for now, for the purpose of showing all the great spaces of your home, you don't need to have those things cluttering up your space right now.
I love the 7 days rule because I think that's very versatile. Because because I traveled a lot last year and I basically brought pretty much, I would say 7 to 10 days worth of clothing, and that pretty much lasted me the entire year.
Exactly. And when most people haven't traveled like that, so they don't take those things into consideration, because when you think about it, if you're traveling, you're backpacking, you really only need 2-3 days worth of clothes, and then you wash them, you wear those same clothes again.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to look at you all day, because again, that's just the North American mentality that we need to wear different clothes every day for that month, and that's not necessarily true. With 7 days worth of outfits, you can actually interchange them and create like 10, 20 different outfits.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that's really popular now is to the capsule wardrobe. Basically, you get 33 items per season, really, and then you basically like work with those 33 items for that entire season, and that's really all you need for that entire time. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, no, it was something, because I knew I was going to travel for so long. That was something I personally look into as well. I mean, I did buy a few additional clothing items, like a proper winter coat, for example, which I didn't bring. So, But yeah, I think you can realistically go through that. And when I was searching for myself, like when I was searching for travel blog, there are people even more hardcore. Like in the summer, all they brought was like one tank top and one skirt, and then like one pant. And then one t-shirt. So basically 4 clothing items for the entire summer. I think that's too much for me.
I know. I don't know if I can do that.
No.
But I can live with a 7-day wardrobe for sure.
Yeah. You'll basically have no clothes left. You have to wash them every day. So what would you recommend if a homeowner feels very overwhelmed with a massive list of to-dos when they're preparing their home for sale?
One of the things that I can't say enough is that hire a professional to help you out. There's no reason to be overwhelmed with it. The clients that allow me or invite me in to help them, they come off essentially so happy and so satisfied and so relaxed, because I make the process fun for them, and it happens quickly, it happens efficiently, and whereas if they were trying to do it on their own, it would be so overwhelming, because they just don't know where to start. That's the problem. And when I come in, I help to tackle the process. I keep them on time and on target, because sometimes they do get sidetracked. They go from room and then they say, oh, I have something else in the other room, or I have another something else in the room, and they're running all over the place. Whereas I keep them on track by saying, no, let's focus on this room only. And that's how we target from room to room and get through the process fairly quickly and efficiently.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, it just, I think also having you around, it's also probably accountability for them as well. Like they had to be accountable because they're paying for someone to come in. So it kind of motivates them even more to
Right.
make sure they get that done.
Absolutely. No, that's a very good term for it because I absolutely agree. It does hold them accountable.
Yeah, that's why you get a personal trainer at a gym, right? It will make sure you to work out
Exactly. Exactly.
or
The
buy a
exact
really expensive gym
same
membership.
thing.
So in your experience, what are some of the really simple, easy to implement tips that people can do to organize their house and get them ready for sale?
Well, in terms of the decluttering process, I tell them to take a look at each object and divide it into four different categories: to keep, to donate, to sell if they are up to doing like a garage sale or something like that. And then what did I say? Yeah, the essentially the three categories really. And so to look at each object and do it like that, and then always think about when was the last time they used this object. If they haven't used it within the last 12 months, then the likelihood is that they didn't really need it after all. And so
Hmm.
I really encourage them then to put it either in the for sale or to the donate pile. So that's in terms of decluttering. In terms of staging their home, I try to tell my clients to look at it objectively and give their every space in their home, look at it critically and try to declutter or remove at least 50% of what it is that they have in that space. That way they can then use what is left in there to stage their home in order to best showcase the space. And of course, lastly, while they are living in their home, the objective is to keep it looking like in pristine condition every single day. So they have to clean it and put everything back into its place first thing in the morning and at nighttime after they're done with their dinner and their family activities and things like that, just so that the space remains in pristine condition throughout the listing period.
And what does pristine condition mean for you?
It means that if they've gone through the process or um, the investment of having the home stage, then keeping all the stage items in its place and not move them. If the after dinner, make sure all the dishes have been washed and clean. The sink is washed and clean, and even the dishwasher is washed and clean, and all the countertops are clean. In the morning, once everybody has gone off to school and working sure the bathroom is nicely tidy and no water spots on the mirrors and countertops and sinks and things like that. Just keeping it looking staged just as it was the first day so that it will continue to showcase well as potential buyers come in throughout the day when they're at work or at school.
That's great. And then, so what are some of the common mistakes that you've seen homeowners make when it comes to staging their house for sale?
Um, some of the common mistakes, using too much of their collectibles or knickknacks. Like one of the things examples I could come up with is figurines. Some people love collecting figurines, but
Mm,
having too much of that it is not going to show the home well. In staging, we put things in place very strategically and for a purpose, right? We don't
hmm.
over clutter with lots of knickknacks. Everything we put in has a purpose for being there, and so those are some of the mistakes. Or trying to use too much of what they have because they love it, not
Right.
because it does. It will help to showcase the space well. And that's one of the common mistake is that homeowners, again, boils down to emotional attachment. Because they love it, they think that everyone else should love it too. And that's not going to always be the case.
I love that. I love you say that because I think, yeah, a lot of homeowners are like, those are fine. But figurines, for example, is something that I think especially I think younger generations consider it something that's a bit outdated. And so when you
Yes,
have stuff like that, it instantly dates your home. Even if it's not outdated, it kind of gives that impression that it does.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. No, that's a really good story and a really good example of that. Because I think people don't understand sometimes how their knickknacks are actually um what is it, counter effective? Is that a word?
Yes.
No. It's more like it distracts the buyers from looking at their house. Instead they're looking
Yes.
at the figurines and the knickknacks and what kind of collection they have
Exactly.
instead of paying that attention to the house, which is the real purpose of staging.
That's right. Absolutely.
And then in your experience, what are some of the tools and tips that you can recommend for homeowners to use to stage your home for sale?
Well, one of the tools that I tell my clients often is that to check out their competitive listings, the
Mm-hmm.
competitive listings within their neighbors, right?
Yeah.
That will give them a good idea of which homes are being staged, and versus which ones that are not. These days with the internet, there's so many um, DIY uh, websites and apps that are out there for you to use and stage the home. So even if you don't have the design knack anyway, go on some of those websites and look at your competitive listings and get some of those ideas to stage your home, because doing so will help you
Yeah.
to look at your own home objectively, and help you be more successful at staging it if you intend to do it on your own.
Yeah, because essentially you just need to look better than the neighbor's house for
Yeah,
you to be a
yeah,
successful stage home, really. You just really make it look more presentable than your competing listing, then you're actually pretty golden.
yes, exactly.
And so if the homeowners are really short on time, what are some of the priority items or room that they should get done first?
Well, definitely the main floor. If we're talking about a two-story home, then definitely the main floor, because that's kind of the primary living space. So the family living room and the kitchen, that's kind of like the hub of the home. And so those areas are prime areas that should be looked at first, as well as the master bedroom. So the master bedroom for the homeowners, that is an escape, right? That
Yeah.
is seen as a retreat. And so making sure that those areas of the home are shown well is critical.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point because that's the thing. I think that's one of the things we too talk to clients about is to focus on the key rooms of the house, especially where the buyers are actually spent most of your time in.
Yes, exactly.
And then so I know when homeowners have children or pets, it's especially challenging for them as well. Because
Right.
I think most people don't mean to, but for example, we have a family dog, and by having a dog, you have all these extra accessories like the dog bed, dog toys. And similar with
Yeah.
kids have a lot of toys or books and stuff like that. So, what are some of the advices that you usually have for homeowners when they have children and they have a lot of stuff to organize?
Yeah. So with children, when I'm helping a homeowner that has young children, particularly, I try to make sure that there's a dedicated sort of space that is set up for them, either in the basement or one of the rooms, where at the end of the day, after school, they do have a place to go to and still escape to and have their own space
Mm.
to live in. If other areas of the house remain untouchable for them.
Oh, I see.
And as for pets, I try, pets are part of the family, right?
Yeah.
But where possible, I ask them to either bring them to a family or friend's place for a short period of time while the house is being shown. But if they can't, then for the most part, I try to tell them to, again, minimize them to certain areas of the house. And once they leave the house in the morning, to put all the pet products away in a hall closet or something like that, just away from eyesight,
Mm-hmm.
and so that the house looks neat and tidy, essentially. But when people are still living in their home, you're going to have to work with them to work around some of those areas because they're still going to be living there, right?
Exactly.
So I'm very sympathetic to their needs from that perspective. I did a project for a family that had five boys, my goodness. And they
Oh my
range
God.
from 6 to 13.
Wow.
And yes, I know. And remarkably, they kept the house in pristine condition. But there was a space in the basement for them to sort of go to lounge and then watch TV and things like that at the end of the day, while the rest of the house was sort of like off limits to them. They had French doors in the formal living room that was closed off to them,
Oh my
and the
God.
family knew that. So they were really, really great. I think that as stagers, if we are empathetic and we understand their family situation
Mm-hmm.
and try to work with them, they will work with us to help us maintain the stage home in the condition that it was meant to be as well.
I think that's a really great tip to have a designated area where the kids can hang out. And I think also it's important to have them participate in the selling process. So I think it's
Yeah,
good to like give them this responsibility and say, hey, it's fine, like you guys can totally hang out, but it's only limited in this room. And this way, in a way, they're taking ownership as well with the sale, and they understand what's going on with the house.
yes, that's a very important tip.
Yeah. No, I think I really love that. That's a really great tip. And and I know one of the areas of your work include project management from beginning to end.
Yeah,
So that includes hiring contractors, overseeing updates and upgrades, shopping for fixtures and hardware, and all the way to the final staging process. So
right.
how do you keep yourself organized, and what are your recommendations for homeowners who are going to do this for themselves?
To hire somebody to manage the project for them, you mean?
Yeah, because a lot of
Yes,
homeowners do it themselves. I think a lot of real estate agents
yes,
that I work with, for example, they really just let the sellers take on those kind of responsibilities. For example, hiring a
right,
contractor to refinish
right,
the floors and overseeing
right.
really all these home improvement projects for the sale.
Yes, and one of the things that holds people back from doing things like that is because they're fearful of the expense, right?
Hmm.
But what they don't realize is the benefit and the stress reliever that they get from having somebody to help them or to take over for them from that perspective. Because as stagers, we all have our sort of our go-to resources, right? We have
Yeah.
contractors whom we've worked with successfully that we know will do a great job, that we fall back onto time and time and time again. And so, when I manage the project for my clients, they are so appreciative of that because they can just continue to live their life. What they do is they go to work, they come home, they take care of their family, run their children's to various activities and things like that. Meanwhile, the house preparation is being taken care of, and they are not trying to do some of these things at midnight once the children are off to bed
Hmm.
and in between their own work projects. So it's that in itself they find incredibly valuable, and they know that people like us will then come in and make sure that everything happens because ultimately our goal is that the house is going to look great, and the sort of the icing on the cake is going to be the staging, right? But the
Yeah.
backdrop itself, like the newly painted wall and the new kitchen hardware and the new light fixtures and things like that, are going to add value to the home too, right? So we want all of those things to happen successfully too, just as much for our own staging work as well as for the homeowner themselves.
Yeah, no, I agree with that very much because I think one of the things, I mean, also for me running a business as well, I mean, there are going to be times where I just simply cannot do everything myself. And so the best
Right.
solution is really to outsource if we have the budget. Um,
Right.
and especially if homeowners are able, I really highly recommend them to outsource all this kind of stuff. I think it is important to take that budget in mind. And so for those homeowners who may be short on budget, like, are there any tools or advice that you can give them to help them to be more organized during their home sale?
Well, when my clients are limited on budget, then what I try to help them do is offer them, or rather recommend resources that I've used in the past so that they can contact them themselves, or
Mm-hmm.
try to do the work themselves. You know, I try to find out if they're handy themselves and can do some of the work like painting or just changing out some knobs and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. And some people are, and they can do that themselves. I try to recommend fixtures that are reasonably priced,
Mm-hmm.
but will still look updated and current. So wherever possible, I will try and help them maintain essentially their budget, even when it comes to staging. You know, can't if they can't afford to stage the whole house, then we'll just look at the key primary areas like the main floor and the master bedroom only. And that will enable them to still have a great home to showcase, but still keep within their budget.
That's really fantastic. And so it sounds like you hire quite a few contractors in your lifetime. So how do
Yeah.
you hire contractors? Because I think one of the concern people usually have, it's like, oh, are they going to finish their work on time or are they going to take advantage of me kind of thing?
Yes. And you know what? That is a really, really good question, a really good point, because trust, bringing people into your home requires a huge trust factor. And then to bring people into your client's home, you have to know that they're going to do a great job for you. And so what I do quite often is use word of mouth. I go to other stagers and ask them whom they've used in the past. Did they like them? Were they reliable? Were they on time? Things like that. And that's what I do. I go to other people within our industry and ask for recommendations. Very, very rarely will I look for somebody online or Google them, because I don't know them, and I don't know anyone who has experienced their work in the past
Mm-hmm.
to say that they'll do a great job for my client, right? So
Yeah.
for me, my reputation is also at stake. So I want to make sure that I will find somebody who is going to be reliable and do what they say they're going to do.
I think that's very important. I think word of mouth is a really good way to find really quality and trustworthy contractors. And
Yes,
when you're working
yes.
with contractors, do you have preventive measures in your contract with them to make sure they finish on time and do a great job?
Well, one of the questions that I ask them, particularly like people like painters or general contractors, if they're, putting up a wall or things like that, I generally ask them, do you stay at a job and finish it, or do you come work a couple of days and then, if there's a little bit of a break and come back? If they say that they typically do a little break because they run to another project, then I won't hire them. I'm only
Mm,
looking for contractors who are committed to my project until it's done. So and I ask, it's up to them to tell me that this project is going to take 5 days or is going to take 2 weeks. But if they tell me that it's going to take 2 weeks, it means that they're going to take 2 weeks to complete my project before going on to the next project. That is very important to me, because neither my client nor myself have the time to continuously chase them down. And
right.
everything we do from staging or from the listing date, the target listing date of the property is work back to the time that they start, right? So everything else after them is hinging on them finishing on time. And so that is sort of a key interviewing factor for me.
That's a really good question, I think, because a lot of contractors do that. They would start on a job and then they leave and then they go and work on the other job. And a lot of times they're struggling multiple jobs and maybe one homeowner is more aggressive than the other one, and then they'll just be like, oh, okay, I'll stay on your job since you sound more mad than the other one.
Right.
Yeah, I've definitely encountered that in my professional career. So that's a really good way to do that.
Yeah.
I've also heard of people, what they were doing is that they would say that you will get a bonus if you finish by a certain date, but they basically just budget all that into their initial budget, and but they kind of frame it more as a bonus for the contractor. Yeah.
No, I haven't used that.
Yeah.
I essentially, when they give me an estimate, what they give me an estimate is what it's going to be.
Yeah.
I don't offer a bonus because I'm relying on these professionals. If they are just relying on the bonus to finish my project on time, then that's not someone who I want to work with.
That's a really good point as well. Yeah, I think you have to find ways to kind of screen out what are some of the good ones and what are some of the red flags that are common with the contractors.
Right. Like for me, if I like someone and if they've done a great job, I will be their walking advertisement. I will recommend them to other clients. I will recommend them to other stagers, other real estate agents. But that in itself is a bonus. But if they don't do a great job, I will never recommend them again or use them again, rather.
I totally agree. Reputation is so important in our line of work as well. I mean, if we refer someone to our homeowners and they didn't fulfill what they say they're going to do, it's going to be very hurtful for our reputation as well.
Very much so, very much so. I've been very fortunate, though, so knock on wood.
And so what are some of the trends that you're seeing in terms of hardware and fixture right now?
Well, there's a lot of shiny things, I still see a lot of crystals in terms of fixtures. I think that chrome is still very much in. I know that copper came in and out very, very quickly. I assumed that to be the case anyway, that it was going to be very much fad-like, that it wouldn't stick around for long. But some of the chromes are still very in. Some of the light fixtures that I really like now are simple, very, very simple in design.
Yeah.
But dramatic in statement, even though some of the ones that are heavily crystal are still quite nice, but I myself prefer some of the more sort of simple, minimalist designs.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I really think with staging, really less is more, I feel like, especially when we are picking finishes. I think that subway tile look, I personally love that because I think that's a really timeless look because it's so simple, but it lasts a really long time. And I think, especially with home renovations, a lot of times when you are looking at trends, things can get out of trends very quickly. That's the other thing too. Yeah. So we have to be aware when we pick finishes.
Exactly. And that's what I try to tell my clients, when it comes to home staging, just go with sort of timeless pieces. When it comes to redesign, then that's where you can sort of
go crazy,
put in things that you really, really, really love, right? But, that you're not going to care that it's going to go out of style in the next year or two, right? Exactly. Particularly things like kitchen countertop and and things like that. Those are the more larger and more expensive investment. You really have to be able to love it for a long time.
Yeah, I agree. I think those are kind of a hard pick in the sense that because I think trends come out about 5 to 10 years, so you really have to pay attention, especially I think if sellers they're moving to the house and they have planned to sell in the next few years, they might have to choose finishes that are going to give them more of a return on investment instead of necessary enjoyment, or maybe find a compromise between the two.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I recently attended the interior design show in Toronto.
Oh,
It was
cool.
actually this past weekend, and you certainly don't see copper as much as you did a year or two ago.
Right.
I saw a few pieces more like accent pieces than anything.
Yeah.
But to design your whole kitchen around copper, that went out real quick.
I know. I think it's really in with the lifestyle. I mean, that kind of hipster trend look. But
Right.
that's fading as well.
Yes.
You're seeing it in a lot of restaurants, definitely for sure. But that's kind of fading really quickly, to be
Yes.
honest. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And not to mention, like, what the trend is that, say, you put it in now, 5 years from now, that trend is out. And then so immediately your house is updated. That's the other thing as well.
I know.
I
I know. Can you
Yeah.
imagine?
I think the way to use it though is to make it look more timeless.
Yes.
I've seen a lot of bloggers to do it, and they do a little bit of it, but not overly crazy with it.
Exactly.
Or
As
they
an
do it in
accent.
places where it's easy to change. Say maybe they only do it on the handles of the cupboard,
Right.
um, or they only do it on the sink fixture because those are easy things to change out, and you
Yes.
don't have to do a full remodel. Like, say if you don't like this countertop anymore, it's gone on a trend, like you will have to do a major thing where you will have to demo it and put a new slab
Yes.
in, and those cost a lot versus just
Yes.
changing doorknobs and handles kind of thing.
Right. I agree. Completely agree.
And then if a homeowner is thinking about selling their home soon, what are some of the stuff that they can start doing now to start the process of preparing their home for sale?
First and foremost, declutter. Just if they are thinking about it right now is the time to go through everybody get involved in the family and go through all their belongings and determine what they're going to keep versus what they can get rid of and donate, because now's the time to do it. Because for a 3 or 4 bedroom home, it's
Mm-hmm.
crazy when you put them into piles how much stuff we've all collected over the years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm afraid to look at my own home actually, but it's seriously, it's something that is going to require a lot of time to go through, and so that's one of the first things that they need to get cracking on. And then, of course, then make a list of some of the minor fixes and updates that they need to get the current their home in a saleable condition.
That's great. And then, so what is the one tip that you can give to a homeowner when it comes to organize your home for sale?
Get rid of as much as you can.
That's really the thing. It's the stuff. Like, you have to get rid of the stuff. There's really yeah.
I know that it's kind of blunt. I put it bluntly, but that really is the thing, because there's people just have way too much stuff. Like, for me to walk into a space and see that they have like 2 huge couches in a small space with 2 armchairs and a couple of wooden chairs hanging on the side because they entertain a lot and they have lots of people coming over and everybody's sitting around having a conversation and things like that. And then the couches are blocking an entryway. Those are crazy. They have to remove at least one of the couches and all of the wooden chairs and perhaps one of the big armchairs, things like that, in order to showcase that room better. Because otherwise, it just looks like it's an overstuffed room.
Yeah, no, I agree, because I think that's the thing with the way we live and the way we sell. It's in a way two completely different things, because we have to make sure that we're showcasing the space, and that's why you have to remove all these excessive stuff.
Yeah, Yes, very much so.
So thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it, especially we have all that technical difficulty in the beginning.
Thanks so much, Cindy. I really appreciate it.
So that's it for today's show. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a review and rating on iTunes. Every rating and review helps someone find our show, help us grow, and get more awesome guests like Nina. So that's it for today's show. Thank you so much and happy staging.